Hello, everyone. Nice to see a few people here. This is really just a chance to give you a little bit of background on DPU. And I'm guessing that probably most of you are UCL students who are joining. I think that's usually the pattern with these things. It's nice having just a sort of small group with us because hopefully you'll all get a chance to ask any questions you have, and we can have a bit of a chat afterwards. What we're going to do now is, my name is Michael Walls. I'm director of DPU, and I'm joined by Shasha Panman, who's the director of studies at DPU. I will say a few words about UCL and DPU. If you are UCL students or graduates, then you'll probably know some of the UCL stuff, but if you're not, just in case, I'll make sure I cover that. But then Shasha will give you probably the detail you really want to hear, which is a little bit about the programs that we offer at the in terms of postgraduate taught programs and the PhD MPhil program. So let's start, and we'll have, as I said before, some opportunity for discussion in a few minutes. By the way, if you do have any questions, feel free to type them into chat or raise your hand and we'll allow you to speak when we get to the discussion period. So no need to wait. You can put your hand up or put comments in chat at any time you want to. So just about UCL generally, you've probably seen some of this stuff if you are a student at UCL, but it's worth kind of repeating because UCL does have quite an impressive history in terms of when it was founded, was quite a sort of radical position that UCL was the first university in England that explicitly was set up to provide a tertiary education for students, regardless of their religious background. We were also the first university to really establish the idea that anybody could join. So we were the first in the country to welcome women. We're the first to run a fully open access university press in the same kind of spirit. We've always had, as a university, an interest in looking outwards from London, from the UK, taking a global perspective, which is why you probably see the line London's Global University. I think it's quite meaningful. It's not just a statement of aspiration, but something that I think we live as a university. Again, I'm not much of a fan of league tables in the sense they can be quite arbitrary, but it's worth saying that UCL is consistently ranked near the top in the world and also in the UK and also in Europe. So, worthwhile commenting on. We do pride ourselves on our academic excellence. We've got, I think, more than 30 Nobel laureates. We're the top university in the UK for research strength, which means the combination of the impact, the number of high impact research outputs and activities that we have, multiplied by the size of our research active staff. We've got 11 academic faculties across the university, 440 undergraduate programs. This year, the year just started in September, the end of September, we had 51,491 students across the university. That's the first time we've ever broken through that 50,000 mark. And that student body represents more than 150 different nationalities. So when I say it's an international university with an outward-looking perspective, that really underlines that fact. We're not small in terms of staff numbers. 14,300 people work at UCL, and we offer 675 postgraduate programs, 7 of which, of course, are at the DPU. So that global perspective is very much reflected in that picture. Our research, our teaching, the diversity of our staff and student bodies. We're the largest campus-based university in the UK, with the number of students there on the screen in front of you. So that gives you, I think, a bit of a flavor of the kind of scope in terms of numbers. It's also important to point to the fact that UCL is very much engaged across very many disciplines. And our focus very explicitly is on trying to think about how, as a university, we need to play a role in a global sense in terms of meeting some of the really substantial global challenges that confront us. So in that sense, we have an explicit focus as a university on addressing some of the world's most urgent problems. Those are organized into a number of categories, what we call grand challenges around global health, sustainable cities, well-being, cultural understanding, transformational technology, justice and equality. Now, one of the reasons I mentioned that, of course, is it's important to know that UCL has those commitments, but it's also important because DPU connects very strongly with those specific issues. Just again, another slide that really talks to UCL's connections across the world. 54% of our students are international. We have, even in these post-Brexit days, over 150 plus Erasmus partnerships across Europe. We have partnerships with institutions around the world. 37% of our staff are also international. And we have alumni in most of the countries in the world. So a bit about DPU then. So DPU sits at the heart of the Bloomsbury campus of UCL, which in its turn sits at the heart of London. So we're very much an urban campus. DPU is very much at the center of that. And you can see a few pointers there of sort of key landmarks, interest areas that give you a sort of sense of how central that location is. DPU, we've got almost 70 years, 69 years, in fact, of postgraduate teaching, research, and consultancy. And that sort of second paragraph there is our mission, the idea that DPU is around in order to conduct world-leading research and postgraduate teaching that helps to build the capacities of national governments, local authorities, NGOs, aid agencies, and private sector organizations, but all with an idea of working towards both socially just and also environmentally sustainable development in the global south, but not just in the global south, because the relationships move in both directions. I think it's important there just to sort of mention that mission, because it does highlight the fact that DPU has a very practically oriented focus. We're not just interested in doing research for the sake of doing research. We're interested in trying to work out how our work, teaching, research, consultancy, training and advisory services all connect with the realities that are faced by different actors and communities that are trying to address exactly those kinds of grand challenges that I just talked about a moment ago. DPU is a department within the Bartlett faculty of the built environment, but we operate as quite an autonomous body within the faculty, with that focus on the global south being particularly specific in the context of the university and the faculty. A couple more facts and figures. We were founded, I said we've spent 69 years engaged in this field. The 69 years, of course, takes us back to 1954, when we were established within the Architectural Association originally, with a vision not dissimilar from the one we have now, to incorporate global south perspectives into development planning. And development planning is a broad term. So that means trying to work out how to make sure that we are not simply a London university based in England dictating what planning means to the rest of the world. And in that period, 1954, at the end of the colonialist era, it was very significant and quite radical to make that statement, that we weren't looking at the post-colonial period as being a period in which we would sort of appropriately be dictating policy from afar, but that we needed to work on much more equal collaborations. And that's very much a principle we've kept true to at the heart of our mission ever since. We joined UCL in 1971, moving from the Architectural Association. The MPhil PhD program was launched in the mid-80s, and the roster of MSCs has grown throughout the period from 1954, from 1971 on. Now we run 7 MSCs plus the MPhil PhD program, and we have an annual intake of students of about 270 people each year. We really look forward to welcoming you to DPU. I hope we can answer any questions you've got now. And if you do want more information about programs, I know that all the program leaders and staff are very happy to answer specific questions. You'll find their contact details on the website. There's a link there. And Shasha now is going to give you a few more insights into the different programs. So thanks a lot for coming. Really appreciate you being here. And over to you, Shasha. I'll stop sharing my screen so that you can share yours. There we go. Thank you. Shasha, over to you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Michael. I'll just share my screen here. Nope. So that didn't work, huh?
That worked perfectly.
Oh, did it? Oh, my apologies.
Yeah. You don't know your powers.
So
Perfect.
There we are.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much. So as Michael mentioned, my name is Shasha, which is short for Alexandra, and I'm the Director of Studies at the DPU. I'm also a lecturer in Urban Economics and Public Policy on the MSc in Urban Economic Development, which I'll tell you more about in just a second. What I'd like to do is I'm just going to provide you with a quick overview of our programs, our programs and how they work. We've got two main categories. We've got the taught postgraduate programs, by which I mean master's programs, and then there's our research degree, which is the PhD program. So in terms of our taught postgraduate programs, we have 7 master's programs, which can either be taken as a full-time study of 1 year or as a part-time degree. Either way, they result in the degree of an MSc. There are a number of similarities across all 7 of our master's programs. The first is that, as Michael said, the department has a shared vision and mission towards sustainable and just development. And this sort of emphasis is carried throughout all 7 of the master's programs, although they specialize and focus in different areas or themes. All 7 of them are also interdisciplinary, by which I mean that although they are focused on specific themes and topics, you don't necessarily have to have a background in that particular topic in order to study it. So all of them take students who have a range of different backgrounds, academic backgrounds, but the common theme is that they are very, very motivated and excited about the particular focus of study of that MSc program. Another thing is that they all have the same broad structure, by which I mean that they combine taught modules, and these taught modules are core modules, so there will be certain core modules to each MSc that you must take, and then optional modules that you have more choice over. They all have a practice engagement, and they all include a dissertation, which is a piece of independent work of up to 10,000 words. And all of the master's programs combine theory and practice. So we have a very strong emphasis across all of the programs on applying learning with engagement in real world cases. And this includes international travel to work with partners. During the COVID years, this obviously wasn't possible, but we had successfully conducted these practice engagements online. And fortunately now the travel is up and running again. So a bit of detail on each of these courses. In alphabetical order, so not order of preference or age or anything like that, we'll start with with BUD, as we call it, which is the MSc in Building and Urban Design in Development. This is a program that's focused on urban design as a transformative process, a transformative practice that transcends physical form and function. So the focus is on critically reflecting on design research practices to encourage a holistic and strategic and just spatial outcomes. There's a very strong emphasis in this course on critical thinking and engaging horizontally with actors in an ethics of care. And you can really see this in the program itself, and the character of the course. In fact, people in BUD tend to call each other buddies. So in terms of the kinds of modules that you have in BUD, this includes looking at local transformation in East London, a week-long design studio, and a practice engagement that has included work in the past years in Colombia and Myanmar. The second master's that I want to talk about is DAP, it's Development Administration and Planning. So this program focuses on the critical study of theories and practices of development administration and planning. Students who take this course, and this is one of the most popular courses at the DPU, they gain an understanding of the processes that generate social change, skills to reflect on and engage with these processes. And that includes examining strategies for poverty alleviation and reduction, as well as examining the role of different actors and institutions, by which I mean things like the state, market, civil society in these strategies. In recent years, their practice engagement has worked with partners in Uganda and Ethiopia to build understanding of the practice of development and the role of development practitioners. Then in terms of our MSc in Environment and Sustainable Development, or ESD, we tend to refer to things by their acronyms, which I suppose is common across UCL. This program is focused on understanding the processes generating environmental degradation and inequality, and identifying strategic pathways to address socio-environmental injustices. The program really challenges mainstream approaches to development, focusing on strategic pathways to address socio-environmental injustices and enhancing collective capabilities to act. So as I mentioned, as with all of our programs, they also have a strong practice element. And in recent years, that's focused on, part of it has been around focusing on open green spaces around Hackney Marshes and Wick here in London, as well as in Freetown, Sierra Leone, and in Lima in Peru, looking at issues of food security, informal settlements, energy for livelihoods, and just water flows, as well as urban agriculture. You can read blogs about from the experiences of previous ESD students on their website. So I would really recommend that you do that. It's a great way to get a sense of what the course is like from an inside perspective. The MSc Health in Urban Development is our newest program. I think we're entering into the 5th year now. HUD focuses on the theoretical and practical understanding of the interrelationship between health disparities, social justice, and development planning in the Global South. I think when this first started, it was very clear that there was a very urgent need to engage with these challenges in a holistic way that brings together the health and the urban, but one that wasn't necessarily immediately obvious to everyone. I think today, in the current context of COVID-19, the importance of this approach is perhaps something that needs to be explained less or advocated for, because it's something that's very prominent in all of our minds now. The course has its roots in theory and practice, and their practice engagements have included working with partners in Belfast, so to look at health in a contested city, as well as in Morocco. You can find out more. They have a video on their website that I'd also really recommend on why health and urban development, which is also on the DPU's YouTube channel. Our MSc in Social Development Practice, STD, focuses on the relationship between being an active citizenship and development, by which I mean the recognition that diverse identities and aspirations are critical to components of social change is really central to this program. In other words, it's a very people-centered approach, focusing on different ways in which diverse and marginalized groups access rights, resources, and recognition. Excuse me. In the last few years, they've been engaged in a really long-standing collaboration with partners in Indonesia. And again, there's a great blog post that I would encourage you to read on that. UDP, our MSc in Urban Development Planning, is one of the oldest of our MSc programs. It provides students with the analytical and practical tools to engage reflexively with urban development and planning challenges in the Global South. It pulls together the capabilities and experiences of people from a really wide range of backgrounds, so political scientists, artists, many more, to create urban practitioners that are confident in applying theory to practice. It has a London project that runs in term 1, partnering with London-based networks to promote more socially, spatially and environmentally just development outcomes in the cities, and then focuses on issues of diversity and inclusion and social impact assessment as well as an engagement with partners in Indonesian cities, such as Yogyakarta, Solo and Surabaya, looking at neighborhood precarity and settlement upgrading. Then we have our MSc in Urban Economic Development. That's the 7th. As I mentioned at the beginning, that this is the MSc that I teach on. In this MSc, what Our aim is to equip students with research analytical skills and the practical experiences to engage critically with issues in urban economic development. Now, the economy is definitely the focus of this course, but the approach is still strongly interdisciplinary, as I mentioned, is true of all our MSCs. So in UED, we have participants from a really wide range of backgrounds, of course, economists, but also architects, urban studies, many others. But what they share is a common values around social equity and environmental sustainability. And so in the course, we engage with key themes like what is the role of governments in enhancing the performance of city economies? What are different approaches taken by different countries? What are the policy trade-offs that they entail? What are the challenges and opportunities of globalization, liberalization, decentralization, digital technologies, climate change? Thinking about all the implications for inclusive and sustainable regional economies, as well as patterns of urbanization, inequality within cities, and pathways for ecological and circular economies. As with the other courses, there's also a strong practical element of it, and we have a London-based project in term 1, and then an ongoing engagement with partners in Mexico, looking at understanding the economic development impacts of large-scale infrastructure investment. So just before I sign off, just to mention that the second area of programs that we have is research degrees. This is our MPhil or PhD program. This is a course of self-selected academic study focusing on urban, political, economic, environmental, social, and institutional dimensions of development. We have between 35 and 45 students from around the world enrolled at any one time in the MPhil or DPhil course, research at the DPU, but any given cohort is usually a group of about 10 students that will start in a given year. The program encourages and supports research that's value-driven and which generates original knowledge to address enduring challenges posed by multiple forms of inequalities, injustices, inequities, and impoverishment. Now, of course, because this is independent study, the range of things within that broad framework that people are studying is very, very wide. But yeah, the common theme is that it aligns with these core themes and values of the DPU in general. So I will stop there. As I mentioned, please do take a look at the website of all of these courses, as there are really great resources like blogs and videos that can help you hear from individuals. But for now, thank you, and we look forward to hearing any questions that you might have.
Thanks, Shasha. I think that there's one question from Albert here. So Albert, give me a second as I read it. Okay, so Albert is asking, so Albert, welcome to this session. Albert's applied for the MPhil PhD program at DPU, had an offer, but had to defer. Unfortunately, that's not an uncommon experience because, of course, things change and it's difficult to secure funds and so on. You're right that there is a limit on the number of deferrals you can make. So unfortunately, you do have to apply again. You shouldn't need to go through another virtual interview because if you're still intending to work with the same supervisor, that supervisor already knows you and will be able to complete. When we take on supervision of doctoral candidates, we have to fill in a review form and we say, yes, we've interviewed the candidate. Yes, they've got a good program of study that's viable and so on. Now, they've already got all that information. So what I would do is just drop a line to the supervisor that you're intending on working with and check with them that they're happy to support again your reapplication. But I wouldn't think that you would need to go through the same process again. I would think just a couple of email contacts would be sufficient there. Shasha, I don't know if you have anything to add to that, but I think that's the answer to the question.
Yeah, just to say, I totally agree, and we'll look forward to hearing from you, Albert.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Albert. Does anyone else have any questions? If you want to, you're welcome to stick up your hand or stick anything in chat or use the Q&A. Okay, Alejandra is asking from Lima. Welcome, Alejandra. You're applying to ESD. You took your TOEFL test. So unfortunately, we can't make exceptions on English. I'm afraid you'll need to sit a test and get the necessary level. We found in the past that we don't really have much latitude to be flexible on that, because the courses, all of the programs are quite demanding, and there's an expectation that you're going to be dealing with quite a lot of material in English, presentations, writing, reading, and so on. Shasha, you're probably actually even better than me to talk about this, but I'm afraid I think the news is not great in terms of flexibility on that.
That's right. We do have some quite hard sort of boundaries on that, some that are quite difficult to cross. But I think if in doubt, it might be worth sending an email to the program leaders just to connect with them on that.
Yeah, but try, I don't know whether you have access to other English tests or whatever, but yeah, I'm afraid in the end you are going to need to meet the minimum level, which is, I think we set it only at standard English. We don't push for a higher threshold, but do drop a line to the ESD team and have a chat with them. Any more questions? Any comments? Anyone want to say anything? Comment? If not, I hope that was useful. Victoria. So the programs, so each year differs a little bit in the size of program. Some are larger than others typically, but the difference is not huge, and it sort of tends to vary from year to year. So, I mean, on average, they tend to be about 30 students, but plus or minus a few. DAP and ESD tend to be the biggest two, but that's not always the case. UDP some years is bigger, but operates on a studio base. So there's the cohort tends to be a little bit smaller because it's important for them to be able to participate in the studio kind of environment. But actually, the difference in numbers is not big. I hope that helps. Shasha, again, come in.
Sure. I'll just add, not directly related to the question, but I see that in your question, you're thinking about 3 different courses in particular, and that's great. You know, do explore and think about the different courses. But just to use that as a launching point to make a general comment, which is that you know, all of our courses are extremely competitive. They're very, we have many more applications for every given place. So what is really key in your application is to really demonstrate in your personal statement a good understanding of the specific course that you've applied to and why you have applied to it, how it fits into your personal academic and career trajectory, why the particularities of the course are important to you. Because really, when the admissions are being assessed, it's something that's very important to us, and to see that you really are passionate about the particular course that you are aiming for.
Great. Thanks, Shasha. If there are no more questions, then I think we leave it there. Do please contact the program staff from the programs you're interested in. If you have any more questions, or you just want to chat about anything, they're very happy to sort of answer questions, and I think can probably clear up any sort of, you know, lack of clarity or misunderstanding or whatever. So please do contact them about any questions you have. Thanks everyone for attending this. Shasha, any sort of final comments?
No, just to echo that. Thanks for attending, and you know, good luck with the applications, and yeah, I hope that we will see you at the DPU in years to come.
I hope so too. By the way, the application process, we tend to process applications in batches, so there could be a variable amount of time between when you submit your application and when you get a response. They also go through a process within UCL, so don't worry if there's some, you know, a week or two, or maybe even a little more than that, before you start getting sort of responses. I think you'll get an automatic response from UCL when you submit it, but after that, the human response tends to come after it's been through several layers of review and response. So do apply. We would love to see you at DPU. And yeah, hopefully get the chance to welcome you all in September next year. Thanks a lot for attending this presentation.
Thanks all.